We've heard about this man before. This hero who single-handedly won the war and then got treated like garbage afterwards. But what if I told you there was an entire team of people who deserve just as much recognition? A secret group whose work has had an impact on your life that you probably didn't realize. In this video, we're going to look at one of the most important groups of code breakers in history, and the machine they created that is considered to be the first computer ever. It all started in a time when technology was rapidly advancing. The telephone was invented just 30 years prior, and radio communication was becoming popular. It seemed like anything was possible, and then World War II happened. This conflict was like nothing the world had seen before. New weapons, new strategies, and a level of violence that was unprecedented. One of the most fascinating aspects of the war was the use of cryptography. The Germans developed a device called the Enigma machine, which could generate billions of letter combinations every second. The British couldn't break this code. At the time, it looked like an unbreakable cipher machine. That was until one man named Alan Turing came along. Turing was a brilliant mathematician who saw the need for a machine that could do calculations faster than any human. And so he did something crazy. He built a machine that could test thousands of possibilities at lightning speed. In other words, he created the first computer. It was called the bomb machine, and it completely changed the game. But how exactly did the bomb machine work? Well, let's take a step back and look at the basics of encryption. The Enigma machine was a type of cipher device that scrambled messages so that only those who had the key to decipher the message could understand it. The Germans were using a more advanced version of the Enigma machine during World War II, and it was creating encrypted messages that were almost impossible to crack. This meant that the Germans could communicate with each other freely, knowing that their messages were safe from prying ears. The British knew that if they could break the Enigma code, it would give them a huge advantage in the war. They would be able to read German military communications and know their plans before they even made them. So they set up a secret unit to try and crack the code. And that's where Alan Turing came in. Turing was a mathematician who had been working on the problem of breaking codes for a few years now. He had already developed a machine that could help with the process. But it wasn't enough. He needed something faster, something that could keep up with the Germans. Turing realized that the key to breaking the Enigma code was to find a way to test out all possible solutions quickly. He had seen how the Enigma machine worked, and he knew that it was capable of producing an enormous number of different messages. If he could just find a way to test out all these possibilities, then he would be able to crack the code. That's when he came up with the idea for the bomb. The name might sound familiar, and that's because the German word for Enigma machine was Schlüssel-Bomb, which translates to bomb. Turing thought that if the Germans had a machine that could encrypt messages so quickly, then surely it would be impossible to decode them. But he proved them wrong. The bomb was a large, clunky machine that looked like something straight out of a Jules Verne novel. It was made up of a series of gears and drums that were designed to simulate the workings of the Enigma machine. The bomb would go through each possible combination of letters and numbers, and when it found one that matched, it would signal the operator. One thing that made the bomb so revolutionary was the fact that it was programmable. Unlike previous code-breaking attempts, which relied on brute force, the bomb could be set to follow a specific set of rules, making it much more efficient. It could also be used to test out multiple possible solutions at the same time, which increased the chances of finding the right one. So how exactly did Turing and his team use the bomb? Well, they would start by getting a piece of encrypted German intelligence. Then they would feed the message into the bomb and see what it came up with. If the bomb didn't produce a meaningful message, they would try again with a different set of settings. This process was repeated until they had a complete message. Turing and his team were eventually able to build over a dozen bomb machines, which helped them to read coded German messages throughout World War II. It is estimated that these machines helped shorten the war by 2 years and save millions of lives. It's hard to overstate just how significant the bomb machine was. It was the first ever programmable computer, and its impact on the war effort was huge. It also paved the way for future developments in computing technology and helped to usher in the digital age. But despite the importance of the bomb machine, it was kept top secret for many years. The British government didn't want the Germans to know how they had broken the Enigma code, so they classified all the information related to the bomb. It wasn't until decades later that the full story was revealed. One of the main reasons why the bombing raids were so effective was due to the work of another group of mathematicians and codebreakers. At Bletchley Park, these people worked tirelessly to analyze German communications and find patterns that could be exploited. They were responsible for providing the initial settings for the bomb machines and for interpreting the messages that came out of them. Working at Bletchley Park was both exciting and dangerous. The codebreakers were constantly under the threat of enemy attack, and they had to be extremely careful to keep their work secret. But despite the risks, they were able to make some major breakthroughs. For example, they discovered that the Germans changed the settings of their Enigma machines every day. This meant that the codebreakers had to race against time to decipher the messages before the Germans changed the code again. They also developed techniques for dealing with the most common types of German messages, such as weather reports and military orders. As the war went on, the Germans became increasingly desperate and they began using the Enigma machine to communicate even more frequently. This gave the codebreakers at Bletchley Park even more material to work with, and they were able to make even more progress. By the end of the war, they had broken most of the German military codes and were able to provide the Allies with invaluable intelligence. It is estimated that the work of the codebreakers at Bletchley Park helped to shorten the war by 4 years and save countless lives. However, the work of the codebreakers remained top secret for many years after the war ended. The British government didn't want the Soviets to know that they had broken the German Enigma code, so they classified all the information related to Bletchley Park. It wasn't until the 1990s that the full story was finally revealed. The story of Bletchley Park and the bomb machine is a reminder of the often unsung heroes of war. These are the people who were behind the scenes to provide the intelligence that wins the battles. They are the ones who deserve our admiration and respect. So what would you say is the most interesting thing about the bomb machine or the code breakers at Bletchley Park? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about this topic, I highly recommend checking out the resources that I used to make this video. And if you want to stay up to date on all things history, then be sure to subscribe. We release new videos every week and we would love to have you along for the ride. Thanks so much for watching and I'll see you next time.